Hi, I'm Parneet Jaggi, and this is going to be a discussion on a very interesting poem, Telephone Conversation, written by Wole Soyinka. Now, it's imperative to know a little bit about Wole Soyinka because he's a revolutionary writer of the Commonwealth literature and a Nobel Prize winner of literature in 1986. So, Wole Soyinka is a Nigerian playwright, poet, author, teacher, and political activist. He's considered Nigeria's foremost man of letters. Born on 13 July 1934 in Nigeria, he was educated in England. In 1986, he became the first African to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature, and he dedicated his Nobel speech to Nelson Mandela. Soyinka has published hundreds of works, including drama, novels, essays, and poetry. He is also a political activist, and during the civil war in Nigeria, he appealed in an article for a ceasefire. Because of his active participation, he was arrested in 1967 and held as a political prisoner for 22 months until 1969. Now, when we talk about this poem, Telephone Conversation, we find that it is a very, very interesting poem. Very light, very smooth flowing, colloquial, satirical. And here in this poem, he's trying to highlight the impact of racial discrimination in the microstructure at the very ground level of society. Now, as the title indicates, it reveals that two people are talking on the phone, and the theme of racial discrimination is carried out through the dialogue form. So basically, Telephone Conversation is a poem in the first person narrative, and it's throughout the poem it tries to grapple with the issue of racism, which lurks within the minds of countless individuals. And before I begin with the poem, let me make it very clear that here the poet has placed before his audience a telephonic conversation between a white landlady and an African man, a black man, and a white woman who is a landlady, who has a room to rent out. And the African man wants a room. He wants a place to live in. He wants to rent out, he wants to take that room by paying the rent, and they are on a telephonic conversation. So, this poem is a bitter comment on racism and racist prejudices. So, he says, the price seemed reasonable, location indifferent. The landlady swore she lived off premises. So, now we see these are two strangers who are talking on the phone. Now, it reveals the attitudes these people are going to show towards each other, and it shows a lot of judgment about each other on the phone itself. Now, the initial lines make it clear that the person who is looking for the room is talking to the landlady, and this landlady swearing that she lives off the premises means she is not living on the main road or a very busy road, but she is living at a peaceful location. So the price seemed reasonable. So the rates are fine, the location is okay, not very disturbing, and the landlady says that she lives in a silent, peaceful place. Nothing remained but self-confession. Madam, I warned, I hate a wasted journey, I'm African. So he says nothing else remained. There were no doubts in my mind. I could always go for that room on rent, but I had to self-confess something, and that was very, very important. And what did he confess? He said, Madam, I do not like to waste a journey coming to your place and then coming back again. Let me confess, I am African. So silenced transmission of pressurized good breeding. So this dialogue of his confession was followed by silence. So at the other end of the telephone line, there was nothing but silence. Now, this African man is noticing everything through the telephone. He notices that abrupt silence and he takes it to be a kind of an impolite gesture of refusal. Voice when it came, lipstick coated, long gold rolled, cigarette holder pipped. So then now he's kind of describing the voice which is going to break the silence and come towards him with a lipstick coated lip, with a cigarette holder pipped. Caught I was foully. So he says, I was caught by that voice which broke the silence, which said, how dark? I had not misheard. Are you light or very dark? Button B, button A. So this is how the query comes from the other side. She asks him to explain exactly how dark he is. Button B, button A, stench of rancid, breath of public hide and speak, red booth, red pillar box, red double tired omnibus, squelching tar. So now this is a kind of a satirical description of the expectation that is placed in front of him, that he has to define how dark he is. So at first he thinks he might have misheard the question, but when these things are repeated, he understands that it is something very important for her to know, that what kind of a man she is talking to. So how dark he is he like this or that? Is he like a red booth, red pillar box, red double tired omnibus, squelching tar? Now tar is black. It was real. Shamed by ill-mannered silence, surrender, pushed dumbfoundment to beg simplification. So he said this was real. This was not that something I was imagining that this is going to happen or she's asking. No, he said it is disgusting, the question that he is like a machine. He has been reduced to being a button on that phone, and he smells the stench from his words and sees the red color all around him. So this is the kind of brutal expression that he's getting on the telephone, and he's reduced into shame. He says, shamed by the ill-mannered silence. Even that silence was not well-mannered, because it was giving him the racist expression and the racist complex. And when he sarcastically thinks that lady has broken her silence and has given him the option to define how dark he is. Considerate she was, wearing the emphasis, are you dark or very light? So now she is even more considerate. She is even more putting more queries to define how dark he was. Are you dark or very light? Revelation came. You mean like plain or milk chocolate? So it is like giving him the question, are you plain chocolate or are you milk chocolate? Are you less dark? Are you more dark? So this was the kind of an experience and an expression he was facing. Her accent was clinical. So now this accent which she was carrying and she was talking to him was clinical. It was very mechanical, insensitive, crushing in its light impersonality. So he could see that impersonality, objectivity, the lack of sensitivity in her voice and in her accent. Rapidly, wavelength adjusted, I chose West African sepia. So now he is a very intelligent and an outright person who adjusts his wavelength to choose to answer that I am a West African sepia, and as afterthought, down in my passport. So he is very clear in his expression. He doesn't want to hide anyways that he's an African man and a black man. So he shouts out loud saying that yes, he is black. And he's not ashamed of it. Silence for spectroscopic flight of fancy till truthfulness changed her accent. Hard on the mouthpiece. What's that? Conceding. Don't know what is that. Like brunette. That's dark, isn't it? Not altogether. So now what is the conversation that is going on? She is not still clear as to what he is saying. West African sepia, she doesn't understand. Down in my passport, she doesn't understand. So silence for that spectroscopic flight of fancy means she cannot clearly visualize as to, her fancy cannot take him to such clarity. She has to question again, what is that? Don't know what is that. Like brunette, brown colored girl, a girl with brown hair. That dark, isn't it? Not altogether. So now he answers, facially I am brunette. So he says, by my facial features, by my facial color, I am a brown colored hair girl having brown hair, golden hair. But madam, you should see the rest of me. So he says, don't look at my face only. I'll define exactly what I look like on the whole. Palm of my hand, soles of my feet are a peroxide blonde. Friction caused foolishly, madam, by sitting down has turned my bottom raven black. So now this is the climax of the poem. He says, on the face I might be a golden haired girl like look, or palm of my hand, sole of my feet may be a peroxide blonde, means less dark. But, madam, foolishly caused, friction has foolishly caused, by sitting down, has caused my bottom to be raven black. So I am raven black means very dark black, jet black as a crow. One moment, madam, sensing her receiver rearing on the thunderclap about my ears. Madam, I pleaded, won't you rather see for yourself? Now, this is how he slashes at her racist superiority. That my face may be dark, my hands and soles may be less dark, but my bottom is as jet black as a crow. Wouldn't you like to see me? So, this is how he kind of projects a conflict between the black and the white, and the poem actually points at the absurdity of racism. Now, the practice of judging someone on the basis of his color, caste, or race instead of his capabilities presents the highly corrupt image of the society where we live, and where actually, according to the poet, individuality is at stake. So, we'll discuss the stylistic devices of the poem in the next lecture. Thank you for now.